Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Bhalabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Bhalabha Gopi Jana Bhalabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Bhalabha Jasodhanandana Brajajanaranja Jana Brajajanaranja Jasodhanandana Brajajanaranja Yamanati Ravanachadi Vanacha Jamunati Ravanachadi Jamunati Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Bhalabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Bhalabha Gopi Jana Bhalabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Bhalabha Jasadanandana Brajajanaranja Jasadanandana Brajajanaranja Jamunati Ravanachadi Jamunati Ravanachadi Ravanachadi Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivijagacharya Astatara Satasi Srimati's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaura Premanandi. Part 3, Srimati Radharani. No school, but I expected there'd be more people here on a no school day. Maybe they'll come late, maybe not. Are you going to learn how to play mridanga like he does when you're his age? Yeah? You're checking it out, I noticed. You want to learn, right? Yeah. You got to practice, though. You got to have a teacher, and you got to practice. But you got the desires, you just need the other two. Okay?
Well, he was playing the harmonium and in Kirtan for the first time, just before the Kirtan started. So,
Really?
You here.
You're a musical inclined person? Yeah? So, teacher and practice. You can do it. I know you can do it. You got it in you. It's already there. Just got to come out. Part 3 is going to be about the merciful pastimes of Srimati Radharani. Merciful pastimes of Srimati Radharani. There's so many. We're just going to take a few. Following a little more Radha Tattva also. And childhood pastimes we discussed, and merciful pastimes. So here's a very nice painting of Srimati Radharani. It's a quote from Naradiya Purana, where Krishna says, "O Narada, Satyam Satyam Punak Satyam, Satyam Eva Punak Punak, Vina Radha Prasadena, Mat Prasado Na Vidyate." I solemnly declare to you again and again and again that without the mercy of Sri Radha, my mercy does not arise. That's a pretty strong statement, isn't it? And then Radha's mercy arises in very wonderful ways. One of the celebrated pastimes of Radha's mercy comes in a story of Radha's delivering a jackal. And like many of these narrations, there's more than one version. The one that's illustrated here comes from a book called Srimati Radharani by Bhakti Purushottam Swami. An ISKCON sannyasi, resides in Mayapur. So his narration begins with descriptions of beautiful Vrindavan. This painting is just cowherd boys swimming in the Jamuna and jumping from trees and when they take care of the calves and the cows, it's said they don't herd the calves and the cows. The calves and the cows just follow them. They're very attached to Krishna, so the cowherd boys just play. And they play, and they play. And Vrindavan is such a very wonderful place. So nice description in the introduction to this jackal pastime. One day, Radharani and her Sakis were having a joyful time together near Suryakund. So what's in Bhakti Purushottam Swami's book is the pastime near Suryakund, and a very similar, not exactly identical pastime took place near Radhakund. They're quite some distance away, but that's okay. The mood of Radharani's mercy is what's important. As they were having their joyful time together near Suryakund, they were walking together, and as they were near Suryakund, they saw a jackal. See down the lower right corner? Jackal. And jackals can be very dangerous, vicious. But the cowherd boys weren't afraid. As soon as the cowherd boys saw the jackal, they started chasing him. And as they were chasing him, he ran and he ran and he ran for his life. And as he was running and running, he saw a hole in the ground. So he hid himself. He jumped into the hole in the ground. The cowherd boys followed him, and they got sticks, and they started sticking the sticks down the hole in the ground. And they decided they started a fire at the top of the hole in the ground to smoke him out. And the jackal was crying Have you heard a jackal cry before? Anyone? Pretty spooky. Where? Where? Yeah, like that. Yeah, it's but it's a little, even when the dog whines, it's different. It's very different. It's howling, whining, very eerie sound. And often jackals hang out together, like, pack. And it's something like peacocks. You've been in a place where there's lots of peacocks? So what happens when there's peacocks, one peacock makes a peacock sound. I can't imitate a peacock. Can anybody imitate a peacock sound? They make a peacock sound. Oh, oh, oh. And then you hear a whole echo of 500 peacocks. It's a signal, peacock concert time. And they all make their sound, and then it becomes quiet. And then one starts the chorus, and then the others respond, and it can go on for a long time. And jackals are like that too. Dogs are like that too. One dog barks, and all the other dogs bark. Woof, woof. But jackals is an eerie sound. So he was crying really loudly, so loudly that some distance away, Radharani and the gopis heard him crying. And Radharani turned to Lalita and said, please find out what's going on. What's that crying sound? Because she's merciful, she's compassionate. So Lalita went to where the boys were. And the boys had a fire, and they were, shouting and making intimidating sounds. She chased them away. Lalita's a pretty strong lady. She chased them away. She put out the fire, and in a soothing voice, she coaxed the jackal to come out of the hole in the ground. Cautiously, the jackal came out of the hole in the ground. Lalita picked him up, carried her in her arms to Srimati Radharani, and displayed the jackal to Srimati Radharani. And what did Radharani do? She delivered the jackal. She's so merciful. The jackal saw the soft, kind Srimati Radharani and immediately understood her nature. The jackal paid his obeisances before Srimati Radharani with tears of gratitude for being rescued and surrendered to Radharani. And what did Radharani do? She said to the jackal, there shall be no more suffering for you from today. I will allow you into my pastimes as one of my gopis. Somebody was asking a question. Is it possible for a living entity to become a gopi? Because mostly, we had this discussion, gopis are expansions of Srimati Radharani. And Srimati Radharani is not a jiva. Srimati Radharani is Shakti. There's Jiva Tattva and there's Shakti Tattva. Radharani is Shakti Tattva. Her expansions are Shakti Tattva. So can a Jiva soul become a gopi? And what to speak of a Jiva soul becoming a gopi? Here's a jackal becoming a gopi. But not the jackal body, but the soul, by the mercy of Srimati Radharani. And so the gopis honored her for her incredible mercy. There's another place besides Suryakund that's Radhakund. Here's a map of Radhakund Shamakund. And if you see up in the upper left corner, it shows a box, Shiva Pushkarni, and the little arrow. The arrow is pointing to number 24. That's where this pastime of Radharani and the jackal took place. Here's a photograph of Shiva Pushkarani. On the far side there's a shrine or a little temple to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is Rameshwara Mahadev. He's a protector of the northern side, Kshetrapal. He protects the northern side of Radhakund. Sometimes it's called Shiva Kora. Kora just means a holy place. And Pushkarani has something to do with the lake that's in front of it. So the pastime connected at Radhakund is so similar. This is described in Padma Purana. In Padma Purana, the story of the jackal howling, and look at this guy, he's staring you down. He was confronted by the cowherd boys. The cowherd boys were throwing stones at him, and instead of attacking them back, he ran and went into the hole, and same thing. They started sticking sticks down the hole and intimidating him, calling bad names. You know, boys will be boys sometimes. Radharani heard the sound. She asked Lali to find out what that sound is. She went and same thing, chased the boys away, put out the fire, coaxed the jackal out of the hole, and brought the jackal back to Srimati Radharani. Who Radharani gave her mercy, because she's not only like pacified so the jackal wouldn't feel life threatened, but she accepted the jackal, or the soul occupying the jackal body, in her entourage of gopis. Just like that. Just like that. Radharani is very merciful. There's another nice example of Radharani's mercy, which many of you have probably heard. It's in relation to Raghunath Das Goswami. Now, everybody will say it negative. Is there anybody here that does not know who is Raghunath Das Goswami and needs a little introduction to Raghunath Das Goswami? You all know. You know who is basically? No? Okay. You see the photograph here, not painting, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. You're familiar. Raghunath is one of the younger ones. The 2 in the middle, Rupa and Sanatan, they were elder. And then the youngest were Gopal Bhatta, Raghunath Bhatta, and Jiva. That makes 5, right? And then Raghunath Bhatta Goswami is number 6. He was also on the younger side, but the Raghunath Das Goswami, little background. Raghunath Das Goswami was born the only son in one of the wealthiest families in all of India at the time. Majumdar was the family name. Govardhan Majumdar was his father's first name. And he had an uncle, his father's brother, and he was the only son, which meant in India, all the vast wealth of the family would go to the son. And there was only one son. No, not even some quarrel in the family. He had no attraction for anything material from childhood. And many things happened. He was married. He had no interest in his beautiful wife and, things that people are interested in, generally speaking. Wealth, wife, family, property, and so forth and so on. Absolutely no attraction. He stayed in family life until he was 31. And then with tricks, he was able to escape. Some details. And then he went straight to Puri. And for 16 years, from 31 until 47, he remained in Puri, 16 years in constant association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu under the guidance of Swarup Damodar. Who's Swarup Damodar? Swarup Damodar was one of the two closest associates of Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri. Swarup Damodar, and Ramananda Roy. You've heard of either of those names? Two closest associates of Mahaprabhu in Puri. And Raghunath Das was placed under the care directly by Lord Chaitanya. He was placed under the care of Swarup Damodar. So for 16 years, the final 16 years of Mahaprabhu's life on earth were in his mood of madness and love of God in Puri. Raghunath Das not only experienced and directly firsthand witnessed it, but he understood it from the careful explanation given to him by Swarup Damodar. When Mahaprabhu left, he went to Vrindavan. So 31 plus 16, 47. He was in Vrindavan until he was 92. He lived a long life. He was certainly especially known for his austerities and his love for Radhakund. He excavated Radhakund to what we see today, when during his time it was just a pond, Radhakund. He was known for his austerities, and he was also known for his fixed regulation. It's said in Chaitanya Charitamrita. His regulations were like lines in a stone, meaning they didn't move. Lines in a stone don't move. You can erase a line on paper, but you can't erase a line in stone. It was very fixed. And one of the things that he did in fixed way was chant. Absorbed. So absorbed in chanting the holy name that one time when he was chanting by the side of Radhakund, it was the heat of midday in summer. No, the temperature today here in Austin is supposed to get up to something like 94. It's hot. It's Fahrenheit. And in Vrindavan, in the summer, 140, like burning. Ouch, scorching hot. But he sat by the side of Radhakund. He was so absorbed in chanting, he didn't feel anything. So absorbed in chanting, he didn't feel that his body was burning. His body was burning. Didn't feel it. Radharani saw it. So Radharani came while he was chanting by the side of Radhakund and extended her upper garment to shade him from the sun. Now, how do we know he did that? Because he was just in such a trance. Because over on the left side of this painting, there's Sanatana Goswami watching the whole thing. And he saw Radharani standing there, serving her devotee. When the heat of the midday sun went settled, she withdrew that cloth and disappeared. And Sanatana Goswami came and chastised. Raghunath, what are you doing? We're supposed to be serving Radharani, and you're taking service from Radharani? This is no good. And so he appealed to Raghunath Das to build a bhajan kutir, or we'll build it for you. But, don't take service from Radharani. So what did Raghunath Das Goswami said? He gave him one of these. Yes. It didn't do anything. Because he was so detached, so completely renounced. On the other side, there's two tigers. Actually, the first event was tigers came to drink water from Radhakund while he was so absorbed he didn't notice. But Sanatana Goswami saw the second time was with Radharani serving. That was it. We'll build you a bhajan kutir. So there, to this day, there's a bhajan kutir of Raghunath Das Goswami right by the side of Radhakund Shamakund. And hopefully when you go to Vrindavan, you'll pay your respects to Raghunath Das Goswami. So the paintings here are just showing the mercy of Radharani. There's one painting that shows little streams of water, not just puddles, but streams of water when pouring from her body, because her body was perspiring. Very hot. So that Raghunath Das could not be burned in the heat of the sun. Just to give you an idea, it's a very nice idea, of how attached was Raghunath Das Goswami to Srimati Radharani, which tells you how attached she was to him. This is taken from, actually I shared this with the Chinese devotees this morning. Anyway, it's from a book, Stavavali, and there's a section of the book, it's 10 vows. This is one of those 10 vows. Even though I suffer in long separation from the divine couple, I shall not, even for a moment, leave the land of Vraja, where Sri Radha Krishna eternally enjoy unparalleled transcendental pastimes, and I shall not vow, even if he himself invites me to go to see the opulent king of the Yadus in Dwarka. So attached. Even if Krishna asked him personally, come visit me, I wouldn't go. I'm not going to leave Vrindavan. I'm not going to leave that place, which is the eternal place of Radha and Krishna's pastimes. The second vow, if with my own ears I heard Radha has gone to Dwaraka, where Lord Hare passionately embraces her to his chest, with an excited heart I would leave Vrajapura and fly there faster than Garuda. So what's the message? It's poetic. He's attached to Radharani, and Radharani is attached to him. He's attached to Vrindavan, he's attached to Govardhan, he's attached to many things, spiritually attached. But surpassing all attachments is his attachment to Radha. If Krishna were to leave and ask him to come visit him, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't leave. I wouldn't leave Vrindavan, because this is the eternal place of Radha and Krishna's pastimes. It is never going to happen. Radha doesn't leave Vrindavan. But if she left Vrindavan, if I heard it with my own ears, she doesn't have to get an invitation, please come and join me. With an excited heart, I would leave Rajapur and fly there faster than Garuda. And that's pretty fast. This is Raghunath Das's attachment to Radha, and Radha's merciful attachment to Raghunath Das. So it's not just, shading him from the baking sun during summertime. It's their relationship. Merciful Radha and Raghunath Das. There's another nice story about Raghunath Das and his attachment to Radharani. Maybe you're familiar. Raghunath Das, was very austere. While he was living in Vrindavan, he only ate once every other day. And what he would eat was very, very, very little. He would take a palmful of buttermilk, chash, and that was his food every other day. Prabhupada, in one lecture, said he became very thin. If you can imagine, that's all and we wouldn't be able to live. we would expire. But he was living on spiritual energy. So Prabhupada said he was very lean and thin. His body was trembling because he was so lean and thin. But he wasn't feeling inconvenienced. He wasn't like, let me do some austerity. It was just his nature. It's something like, maybe you know the story of Sudama Brahman. Do you know the story of Sudama Brahman? Haribol. You know the story of Sudama Brahman? Sudama Brahman? Does your sister know the story of Sudama Brahman? You've heard of him? No? You know the story of Sudama Brahman? Yes? How about our future Mridanga player next to you? You know the story? You do? No, okay. Okay, let's share the story. Krishna was born in the prison house of Kamsa. That very night that Krishna was born, he requested his father to take him in a little baby form out of the prison house of Kamsa to the other side of the river Jamuna and place him by the side of Mother Yashoda. So he became known by everybody as the son of Yashoda Nandana. Nandana, the son of Yashoda Nanda. When he was 10 years, 8 months, Akrura came to take him to Mathura. Krishna went to Mathura. And many things happened. One of those many things was he killed this elephant. What was the elephant's name? Starts with a K. Kuvalyapita. Does it ring a bell? No bells ringing, huh? Kuvalyapita. You got to read Krishna book. Come on, you're growing up in a Hare Krishna family. You got to read Krishna book. Kuvalyapita was the name of this humongous elephant. Krishna finished him. He not only finished him, he broke off both tusks, gave one to Balaram, and he put one over his shoulder, and off they went into the wrestling arena of Kamsa. Finished the wrestlers. It wasn't just Chandra and Mushika. They had 3 brothers, and they finished the 3 brothers too. Finished. And then it was time for Kamsa. Krishna jumped up on the elevated throne, grabbed him by the hair, dragged him down to the wrestling arena, and Sako. One Sako, he was finished. And everyone was, yay! And so that they would know that Kamsa was finished, he dragged him around the wrestling arena by his hair. It wasn't just like got knocked out, he was finished, gone. You with me? So what happened next? Krishna went and freed his mother and father from prison. Mother and father's name? Vasudeva Devaki, right? Vasudeva Devaki. Yes or no? I'm looking at yes. Do you remember? Not exactly. Vasudeva was his father. Pay attention. Pay attention. Vasudeva was his father, and his mother, Devaki. So he freed them from prison, and they were very happy to be with their son again. And because they were separated from the very night that he was born. And here he is almost 11 years old, and they haven't seen him since that night he was born. They were really happy. So what did Krishna do next? Krishna, 11-year-old Krishna, arranged for the coronation of Ugrasena. Because Ugrasena was the king before Kamsa was the king. Ugrasena was his father. He put his father in prison. Krishna freed his father, established him as the king again. Kamsa's dead. Ugrasena is the king. And now what happened next? What happened next? Mother and father, he's 11 years old, that he hasn't had his upanayana. Because little Kshatriya boys, when they're 11, tradition is, that's when they get their upanayana. So after upanayana, then what? He had to go to school. 11 years old, he hadn't even gone to school yet. He was busy with cows. No school. So Krishna decided what school he wanted to go to. What school did he want to go to? We discussed this yesterday. Sandipani Muni, right. Right. Sandipani Muni. He went to the school of Sandipani Muni. And in 2 months, he finished school. He was a good student. And some other things happened. And then Krishna came back. Krishna came back after school. There's some other things that happened while he was there. And then he lived in Mathura with his mother and father. And for something like 25 years. And while he was in Mathura for those years, there was a revenge attempt by Jarasandha. You've heard his name before? Jarasandha. 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 Jarasandha was in a get-back mood. Why? Because the two daughters of Jarasandha, were married to Kamsa. When Kamsa was killed, the two daughters went, "Daddy, revenge. I take a vow." What's the vow? I will not only destroy Krishna, but I will destroy the whole Jadu dynasty. Jarasandha got a massive army, many divisions of soldiers, and went charging off to Mathura to finish. Krishna said, "No problem. Balaram, you and I can take care of this." They went out on the battlefield and finished his entire army, leaving one person standing alone on the battlefield. And that one person was? Jarasandha, right? Who's Jarasandha? Who's Jarasandha? Okay. The two queens of Kamsa were his daughters. Right? Yeah. So I'm telling all these Krishna stories because I think we have some newer people here that need to hear Krishna stories besides just Radharani. Although this is dedicated to Radharani Part 3. Well, we're going to hear something further. Let's go back to Sandipani Muni. Sandipani Muni was Krishna's teacher. And Sandipani Muni had a mother. And his mother's name was, you're going to see her picture shortly. So I'm saying it now so then remind you. His mother's name was Purnamasi. Purnamasi. And Purnamasi reached Vrindavan even before Krishna was born. Because Purnamasi is Yogamaya. Yogamaya means she is a potency of Krishna that organizes, but personified potency of Krishna that organizes all his pastimes. Yogamaya, personified. In Vrindavan is named Purnamasi. So Purnamasi helped organize, orchestrate, officiate, approve and disapprove everything that happened in Vrindavan. We're going to hear some more about Purnamasi shortly. So one of the places of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan was Radhakund. We mentioned the jackal and Radhakund. So how did Radhakund become Radhakund? Because during Krishna's pastimes, it was a place of Radharani's where she would take her sacred bath. There's a whole story, and I better get back to speaking about Radharani because I'll be in trouble if I don't speak about Radharani. But there's a very wonderful pastime of the manifesting of Radhakund and Shyamakund. And Raghunath Das Goswami lived at Radhakund, well, from what's 92, because he lived till he was 92. And then he didn't go there till he was 47. So you take away 47 from 92, what's left? How many? 45. Is that right? You double check. 45. 45 plus 47 is 92, usually. So he lived at Radhakund, which is pictured here on the left side, for 45 years. And because Raghunath Das was in the care of Swarup Damodar for the 16 years that he lived in Puri, he was then requested by the Vaishnavas to narrate pastimes of Krishna, of Lord Caitanya, for 45 years, every day, for 45 years, for 3 to 4 hours every day, by the side of Radhakund. And he left his body at Radhakund, and what you see here on the right side is his samadhi. And it was such because he was 92, superlative Vaishnav, they felt so strained at heart that he was gone. He was so wonderful. So they started a kirtan, and the kirtan became a 24-hour kirtan. And this was how many years ago? So maybe 450 years ago. To this day, they still have 24-hour kirtan by the samadhi of Raghunath Das. And in fact, Aindra's 24-hour kirtan was inspired by this. So all of this is, Raghunath Das Goswami was a recipient of the mercy of Radharani. He was very totally dedicated to Radharani, and she to him. So this is a merciful pastime of Radharani. Radharani was also very merciful to Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami? We'll go back to the 6 Goswamis. Remember that painting of the 6 Goswamis. So he and his elder brother Sanatana were the senior most, and Rupa Goswami was directly instructed at length by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Lord Chaitanya, listen to this, Lord Chaitanya empowered him to understand everything that he had taught him. And Lord Chaitanya's teachings were very high. But he empowered him to understand it and empowered him to write it and expand. So based upon that empowerment, we now have many literatures written by Rupa Goswami. The very first evening, you remember that one of the appearance pastimes of Radharani was from one of Rupa Goswami's writings, Lalita Madhava, where we heard about Purnamasi. Remember that one? Rupa Goswami is up there. And most celebrated of his writings is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Prabhupada translated as Nectar of Devotion, a summary study. This is a painting, very old painting, of Rupa Goswami writing Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu underneath a kadamba tree. You see those little yellow flowers. They're Kadamba flowers. Kadamba flowers have a funny shape. They look like golf balls, shape-wise. Have you seen Kadamba flowers? No. They're round. And they have different colors and different sizes, but the Kadamba flowers are round. And it is said that when Rupa Goswami was writing, sometimes he would be writing something in the mood of the separation of the gopis from Krishna. And his mood when writing was so profound that the leaves on the trees would fall from the trees. And then when he would write something that was very joyful, the leaves would suddenly just appear and become very like newly blossomed flowers and leaves of the tree. A very powerful person. So one time, underneath this Kadamba tree, why this? That was just a little detail. The place where Rupa Goswami wrote much of his books was in a place called Ter Kadamba. Ter, in the local language, means call. So Krishna would climb the Kadamba trees, and with his flute, he would call the cows. He would call the cows because this place, Ter Kadamba, is almost very close to the palace of Nanda Maharaj. The palace of Nanda Maharaj, we saw some pictures yesterday. It's up on a hill. Nandagram. And before they got to Nandagram, he'd climb the tree and call all the cows. And there were a lot of cows. How many cows did Nanda Maharaj have? 900,000. Oh, that's a lot of flute playing. He called the cows by groups, and he called them by name of their group through his flute. And when they would hear the name of their group, their ears would go up, and together the whole group would respond, moo. And their tails would go in the air, and they'd run with their milk bags filled and run to the sound of Krishna calling them. They loved Krishna, and Krishna loved them. This is one of his activities at Ter Kadamba. Sometimes he would call the gopis. Ter, call, from the top of the Kadamba tree, and called them to come and join him. So Rupa Goswami was writing Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and on a particular day, it was his brother's birthday. Who was his brother? Sanatana Goswami was his elder brother. And it just so happened, sometimes Sanatana Goswami liked to be more secluded. And so he went by the side of Pavan Sarovar. Pavan Sarovar is, Sarovar means lake. So it's a lake where Nanda and Krishna every morning would go take their bath. Remember that? We saw those photographs? Did we see those photographs yesterday? No? Because Radharani would come to cook for Krishna. You saw the photos? Yeah. You don't remember? I think we saw them. If we're not, we're going to see them shortly. So anyway, here's Rupa Goswami writing, and near Pavan Sarovar, Sanatana Goswami was staying for some time at Bhajan Kutir, very secluded, very quiet. You know, sometimes he would be out amongst everybody, and sometimes he'd be in a very secluded situation. So he's just thinking, he's desiring, I'd like to do something for my brother on his birthday. That's all. He's continuing to write. And as he's writing, look at this. Here comes down the path a young gopi carrying a gift for Sanatana Goswami. And she introduced herself to Rupa. the elders of our village sent me here. They knew that today is your brother's birthday, so I'm bringing you the ingredients so you can make some sweet rice for your brother. And here's the list of ingredients. He was very pleased. Oh, how kind. He said, it's a wedding, and we're having this nice festival, so we have all these nice ingredients. So I'm bringing you some ingredients. You can make some sweet rice for your brother. So he prepared some sweet rice and went with the sweet rice to where his brother was at his bhajan kutir near Pavan Sarovar. And actually, coming up is the photos of Pavan Sarovar. So here we go. So he went to see Sanatana Goswami. Here's a birthday gift for you, some sweet rice. Oh, how thoughtful. And he started tasting the sweet rice. And he was feeling spiritual ecstasy. Where'd you get these ingredients? He said, oh, one girl came this morning and she said there's a wedding in our village and the ladies of the village suggested it's your birthday, so take these ingredients. Sanatana Goswami said, I know everybody in all the villages around here. There's no wedding today. Can you describe the features of this young girl? He described the features of the young girl. And he said, oh no, that's Radharani. Now you look what you've done. You've implicated me in taking service from Radharani. How terrible. But the sweet rice is so good. And he kept eating it and shared it with his brother. So the merciful Radharani doing some service simply because of the desire of Rupa Goswami. Now this is our Dinabandhu in front of the now well-guarded entrance to Sanatana Goswami's Bhajan Kutir, which is behind you where that blue wall is. And on the other side of the wall, this is the structure. Now notice the two spires. On one side is Sanatana Goswami's Bhajan Kutir, and the other side is Krishnadas Babaji's Bhajan Kutir. I'll tell you a little bit about him. But let's go inside. Sanatana Goswami's Bhajan Kutir. Here's Dinabandhu offering his obeisances to this little shrine. And then that's what it looks like inside, his Bhajan Kutir. And the Bhajan Kutir is on the front side, and here's what's on the back side. Here's the photos. Pavan Sarovar, it looks like it's really well maintained, yes? Doesn't even look like a normal something in Vrindavan. Those spires on the right, that's the Bhajan Kutir of Sanatana Goswami. And on the left is Pavan Sarovar, what was built by Vishakha's father, who was named Pavana Gopa. He constructed this lake, and Krishna and Nanda daily would perform their bathing here. There's a nice story. It's connected with Pavan Sarovar. It's not connected with Radharani, but it's a nice Krishna story. One day, Nanda Maharaj was preparing a pilgrimage to go all the way to Prayag. From Vrindavan to Prayag is quite a journey. So Krishna asked him, Nanda, Baba, where are you going? I'm going to Prayag. And why are you going to Prayag? Because I heard of this wonderful description of the benefits of taking a bath in Prayag. What's Prayag? Is a city where there's the confluence of three sacred rivers. Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati rivers converge in that place known as Prayag. So I've heard the glories of going to, I heard a katha, and so some of us will be going to Prayag. So Krishna suggested that they wait until Akshaya Tritiya. And on Akshaya, because it's a sacred day, so on Akshaya Tritiya, he, Nanda Maharaj, went to take his morning bath that morning, and he saw this king, very majestic king, with many, many other lesser kings and some ladies. And he'd never seen them before. This is just at the bottom of his hill. So he went and introduced himself and asked, "Who are you?" And the king said, "I'm Prayag Tirtha. And I come here once a year on Akshaya Titiya to take my sacred bath. Because many, many pilgrims come to Prayag and down dump all their sinful reactions. So I come here to get cleansed at Pavan Sarovar." And all these other kings, they're similar kings like me. And see those ladies, those are the sacred rivers, this one, that one, the other one, personified. They come here also to Pavan Sarovar. Oh. So Nanda canceled his plan to go to Prayag. So there's a nice celebration. In the center, there's a nice little temple, and I don't have a picture of the deities there, but it's nice deities at Pavan Sarovar. And over to our left, that's where Nandagram is, up on the hill. It's a nice pastime with Rupa and Sanatana Goswami getting the mercy of Srimati Radharani. And there's another very nice story about Radharani giving her mercy to Shyamananda Pandit. You know this story? Some of you know this story. You must know this story. Who is Shyamananda Pandit? Shyamananda Pandit is one of the three personalities who Jiva Goswami instructed thoroughly, and they became next in line in disciplic succession. Shyamananda Pandit. Many things to say about his life. Shyamananda, we mentioned it somewhere along the line. We mentioned it as, it was to the Chinese group. His spiritual master, Shyamananda Pandit's spiritual master, was Gopal Bhatta. But Jiva Goswami was his Shiksha Guru. And he thoroughly instructed Shyamananda Pandit. Who are the other two? Narottam Das Thakur. Srinivasacharya? Okay. So Shyamananda Pandit, whoops, I got it mixed up. Srinivasacharya was Gopal Bhatta's disciple. Shyamananda Pandit, let's hear the story. Here's a drawing and another drawing of Shyamananda Pandit. So Shyamananda Pandit got the name Shyamananda directly from Radharani. So here's the story of Shyamananda Pandit. We'll go back a little bit in time to the time when Caitanya Mahaprabhu was known as Nimai Pandit before he took sannyas. And it says in Chaitanya Bhagavat that he informed literally a handful of people about his plan to take sannyas before he took sannyas. The first one he informed was Lord Nityananda, who didn't say no, but he was devastated. Lord Chaitanya was going to take sannyas. But Lord Chaitanya, he couldn't say no, and so Lord Chaitanya invited him to go visit another person who they informed, who was named Gauridas Pandit. Gauridas Pandit was a resident of Ambika Kalna. Ambika Kalna is upstream from the Ganges. So they went to visit him, and they informed him, Mahaprabhu informed them, going soon to take sannyas. Now Gauridas Pandit had this very interesting relationship with Lord Chaitanya. He told him, you can't do this. I mean, Nityananda couldn't say that, but Gauridas said, he was elder, you can't do this. Why you can't do this? Because I won't be able to maintain my life. So Lord Chaitanya said, very well, I will make a deity of myself and Lord Nityananda, and when you worship this deity, you'll see me. It's the first Gaurnitai deities. During Lord Chaitanya, before he even took sannyas. And they're very tall. They're taller than you. The deities are really big. And so Lord Chaitanya said, "Now I'm on my way, going to take sannyas." And he went out of the courtyard and heading for the gate. And Gauridas came running behind him and said, "No, no, no. If you say these deities are not different than you, then you stay. Let the deities go." Lord Chaitanya smiled and said, "Very well." And he and Lord Nityananda walked over to the altar. The deities walked off the altar and started walking through the courtyard and heading for the gate. And Gauridas said, "No, no, 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 no. You can go and the deities can stay." They went back and forth like that till they realized they're not different. They're not different. Lord Chaitanya left. So after some time, Gauridas had a disciple, and he named the disciple Caitanya Das. Caitanya Das was a wonderful Brahmin, very qualified young man. And Caitanya Das, when got trained up in the worship of the deities of Gaurnitai, one time Gauridas had to go out of town, so he said, "You continue the worship of the deity till I get back." So he did. And while his guru was gone, he got inspired to have a nice festival in the honor of Lord Chaitanya. It was the first Gaura Purnima festival on the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya. And without consulting his guru, he just made all these arrangements for a big feast and invitations, big kirtan and this and that. And Gauridas came back and he heard about this big festival and said, "How can you arrange all this without any consultation?" "Well, it's too late, everyone's coming." And so he was unhappy with Caitanya Das for doing, not for honoring Lord Chaitanya, but doing it without any consideration. So the festival took place. And when the festival took place, the kirtan was tumultuous. And devotees came from all over the place to honor Lord Chaitanya's appearance day. And the kirtan was so ecstatic that the deity, Gaurnitai, got off the altar, went through the courtyard and headed for the gate to go down and join the kirtan because it was outside, underneath a bad, giant tree in a public courtyard, public place. And Gauridas came running after the deities with a stick in his hand. "Get back on the altar. It's time for the Bhoga offering. It's Raj Bhoga offering. Get on the altar." And they smiled and kept running. So Gauridas was chasing him with a stick. "Get back." So they looking over their shoulder and running, and he's running, and they continued running. And when they got to the kirtan, which they wanted to join, he's still chasing them. So the deity of Lord Chaitanya entered into the heart of Caitanya Das, so Gauridas couldn't stop him. The festival went on, then later the deities returned. So from that day, he had a new nickname, Hridai Caitanya. Hrid means heart, right? Hridai Caitanya. Hridai Caitanya. So Hridai Caitanya, some time passed, and Hridai Caitanya became himself a guru, and he gave diksha to a devotee who was named Krishna Das. Caitanya Das, or Hridai Caitanya, had a disciple named Krishna Das, and he was called Dukhi Krishna because he was always sad in the mood of separation from Lord Chaitanya and Krishna. So they are great devotees of Lord Chaitanya. And in course of time, Dukhi Krishna became such an incredible scholar that Hridai Caitanya said, "You go study the scriptures under Jiva Goswami, go to Vrindavan, and he can become your instructor guru." So Dukhi Krishna went. Here's a painting where Dukhi Krishna is taking shelter of Jiva Goswami, and over to the left, those are the other two students. Shamananda, Srinivasacharya, and Narottam Das. Same. Dukhi Krishna taking shelter. And now he has 3 students. And Jiva Goswami thoroughly instructed them in the teachings of the Goswamis, etc. Now, Dukhi Krishna had a nice service mood. So he asked Jiva Goswami, is there some humble service I can do? And he said, yes. Something very suited for your humble mood. Where this temple, the Radha Damodar temple, is in the area of Sevakunj. Very near to this temple, there's a place where Radha and Krishna perform rasa dance every evening. So here's a broom, and you go to that place where they perform the rasa dance every evening, and you make it very clean. So it'll be suitable for them for rasa dance. So he took it to heart. And one evening, as he was cleaning in the kunj, he found an ankle ornament, very celebrated ankle ornament. There you see, there's the sitting place of Radha Krishna, there's the ankle ornament, and there's the kunj, different animals. So as soon as he touched this glowing ankle ornament, immediately he felt ecstatic emotion. Here's a drawing by Shivaram Maharaj of that same ankle ornament, or another image of there's Radharani's feet and the ankle ornament around her feet. So he understood this isn't something ordinary, so he buried it in the earth, waiting to find out who the ankle ornament belongs to. In the lower left corner, one morning, a very, very old lady came, leaning on a cane, as you see, and she asked, have you found an ankle ornament? The upper left, he finds the ankle ornament. To the lower left is this old lady asking. He said, yes, I did. And he said, the old lady said, it belongs to a very dear friend of mine. She lost it. Can I have it and return it back to her? Dukhi Krishnadas said, how do I know? I'd like to meet this person who the ankle ornament belongs to. Can you take me to her? And the old lady transformed herself into a young lady, pictured on the right, who was Lalita. She smiled and said, yes, I'll take you to her. And Lalita had come to retrieve Radharani's ankle ornament to give an opportunity for Dukhi Krishna to meet Radharani. And you see a painting, very old painting, where Dukhi Krishna went before Radharani in a female form. His spiritual form was Kanaka Manjari. Kanaka Manjari. And Radharani, with her Ashtasakis, received Kanaka Manjari, and Kanaka Manjari gave her the ankle ornament, and Radharani was very pleased. So Radharani placed the ankle ornament on her forehead and made an indelible tilak mark on her forehead and let her know, your name is Kanaka Manjari. When you go back to Vrindavan, you can then be known as Shyamananda. Shyamananda. But don't tell anybody what just happened. This is between you and me. So, bound by Radharani's word, Shyamananda returned, and when he returned, he still had this tilak mark on his forehead. And he had to tell Jiva Goswami, so he told Jiva Goswami what happened. Although Radharani said, don't tell. Telling Jiva Goswami is like not telling anybody. So Jiva Goswami was amazed, like, you got Radharani's mercy. But he's also bound, don't tell. So some time passed. Hridai Caitanya, who is now in Bengal and has many disciples, some of those disciples went to Vrindavan to visit the holy place. And when they went to Vrindavan, they saw their godbrother with different tilak and being known by a different name than Duki Krishna Das. He's now being known by Shyamananda. You know what happens in this world sometimes? Rumors start. Probably never happens here in Austin. Maybe not Houston also, but sometimes rumors start. Sometimes. So the disciples of Radha Caitanya, when they went back to Bengal, they started saying, Jiva Goswami has violated Vaishnava etiquette. He's given another initiation to your already initiated disciple, Duki Krishna Das. And not only that, he gave him another name, and not only that, he has different tilak. So hearing this, Radha Caitanya wanted, what's the real story? So he shared with the other senior Vaishnavas. They all decided, let's go together and ask Jiva Goswami what happened. So on Kartik time, big assembly, they all went in mass to Vrindavan. And they made a camp outside of where Jiva Goswami was staying. Being very respectfully, went to visit them. And how wonderful, how can we serve you? He said, you can tell me, did you give this name and tilak to my disciple? He said, no. Then Radha Caitanya, pictured here on the right, said, can you tell me then how he got this name and his tilak? And Jiva Goswami said, I think you're going to have to ask your disciple. Very reasonable. He said, fine, bring him here. So in the painting, there's Shyamananda, previously Duki Krishna, before his guru, and look at all the assembly of people behind him, and asking him, did Jiva Goswami give you this name and this tilak? No. Then tell me how it happened. Duki Krishna, or Shyamananda, said, can you give me a little time? I'd like to give you a proper answer. He said, sure, I want a proper answer. So right in front of him, Shyamananda went into a trance of meditation, and for the second time, in his spiritual form, as Kanaka Manjari, he went to Radharani's abode. And Kanaka Manjari, was crying and crying, so they're wondering, what's happened? Said, Jiva Goswami is being criticized unfairly because of some rumor, because now I have this different name and different tilak, and I'm not supposed to tell anybody how it happened. What to do? I can't bear Jiva Goswami being criticized. So Radharani said, no problem. When you go back and you tell them it happened in a dream, and you can volunteer. If you try to wash off the tilak and it doesn't wash off, then you can accept it was in a dream. Just do that. And not only that, here, look at this painting. This is Lalita in her peacock sari, giving a deity from Radharani directly to Kanaka Manjari. So Kanaka Manjari returned back to Vrindavan. And now let's go to this slide. And then Duki Krishna opened his eyes from that trance of meditation and said, the proper answer is, this all happened in a dream. Oh, come on. How do I know it happened in a dream? That's my word. And to test my word, if the tilak doesn't wipe off, then you can accept it actually happened in a dream. Very good. Tilak didn't wipe off. I said, okay, I accept. It happened in a dream. That night, Radha Caitanya had a dream. And Radharani appeared in his dream. And Radharani scolded him. said, you have no idea how fortunate you are to have such an elevated disciple as Shyamananda. I gave him the name. I gave him the tilak. And you are also very dear to me. So do not bother your wonderful disciple anymore. You're both dear to me. Please understand this and be happy. And the dream broke. So the next morning, Hridaya Caitanya was blissful. Compliments of his dear disciple Shyamananda. He now had Radharani's darshan in a dream. And this is the place, at least a few years ago, where Dukhi Krishna Das was doing his cleaning at the place where rasa dance would occur, where he found the ankle ornament of Radharani. And last but not least, here's the deity that Radharani gave him. When he returned back to Vrindavan, he carried with him this deity of Lala Lali on the left side. Radha, or Shri Shri, Lala Ladhi, there's the deity, close up, still being worshipped today in Vrindavan. Given by the hand of Radharani to the hand of Shyamananda Pandit. So there's our third example of Radharani's mercy to one of her devotees, Shyamananda Pandit. So many nice pastimes, yes? Now it's wonderful going to Vrindavan and seeing these places, but even when you go to Vrindavan and see these places, getting this kind of close-up image of the deity, it's not going to happen. To get a photograph like this, you have to pay a few rupees to the pujari, and it's not going to happen. There's advantages doing something like this, and there's certainly advantages going in person to Vrindavan. I'm certainly looking forward to going to Vrindavan. It's different than images and seminars and things like that. So, this evening, part 4. Srimati Radharani ki jai. See if there's some discussion. A little abrupt ending, but that's okay. Yes. Do we have a portable? This is a portable.
Hare.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj. Thanks a lot. Especially, I'm completely all the leelas which you have mentioned today about Raghunath Swami, and 24 hours chanting is going on from the past 450 years.
Yes.
I'm completely shocked and amazed. Thanks a lot. I don't know this, and thank you for the wonderful, letting us know today. And I don't have any questions, but I'm completely amazed about the pastime of Raghunath Swami and entire
Raghunath Das Goswami.
Raghunath Das Goswami.
Raghunath Das Goswami.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj. Thanks a lot.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anything? Okay.
His Holiness Romapada Maharaj ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.